Alright students, welcome to another weekend wrap-up where we're going to look at Mark chapter 6 of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Hopefully we'll learn something new through this passage and challenge yourself of how to look at Christ differently. This miracle, besides the resurrection, is the only other miracle that is recorded in all four Gospels. So that's really awesome. So we say feeding 5,000, but think of it, that's 5,000 dudes, and then some of them probably brought their wives, and a couple other of them probably brought their kids. So this is really close to probably 10 to 13,000 people that came, that Jesus miraculously fed. So in your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 6. We're going to look at verse 35 and read from there. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the nearby farms and villages and buy something to eat." So the crowds are coming. They're super hungry. This is a huge crowd. But Jesus said, "You feed them." With what, they asked. "We'd have to work for months to earn enough money to buy food for all these people." "How much bread do you have?" he asked. "Go and find out." They came back and reported, "We have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." Then Jesus told the disciples to have the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of 50 or 100. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven and blessed them. Then breaking the loaves into pieces, he kept giving the bread to the disciples so they can distribute it to the people. He also divided the fish for everyone to share. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterward the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftover bread and fish. A total of 5,000 men and their families were fed. Okay, that's a lot, right? How in the world was he able to do 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and feed 10,000 plus, 5,000 plus people? You see, this is the amazing thing, is when you look in the book of John, if you just scoot over a couple books, you're going to see in the book of John, and we're going to look at chapter 6 again, where he says this, "Where can we buy?" This is Jesus saying in 6 verse 5, Jesus saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread for all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. He already knew. You see, in times of uncertainty in our lives, we may think, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? Jesus already knew what he was going to do in times of uncertainty or times of doubt. When Jesus hung on the cross, when everyone wept and thought this is the end, that this is the person that was supposed to save us, deliver us, it's all over, our hope is gone. He already knew. If you're taking notes, write that down and say, he already knew. See, sometimes we're tested to make sure that our faith is in the right place. See, with the disciples, they saw this huge crowd, and they were so focused on the resources that they weren't focused on the source. How many times in our lives have we seen something and it seems like too much, it's too much to handle, and we forget about the source in our life that is sitting right there next to us? See, I could be tested all the time and think, wow, God, this is too much. I got too much. There's too much work. There's too much problems. I got too much this going on. I'm focused so much on the resources that I lose my focus on the source. And when I put my focus on the source in those storms, my faith is going to be in the right place. See, it's okay to be afraid and worried, because that is a time where your faith gets tested, and hopefully you walk through because you know that Jesus is right there with you. You walk through those storms, like last week with Pastor Rick Countryman sharing with us the storm and Jesus walking on water, that Jesus is right there with you in the storm. And sometimes when we're in the storm, we lose focus on the blessings that have happened in our lives. Just right before that storm, Jesus did a miracle. The disciples saw this miracle. And then when they go across the sea into a storm, they immediately forgot about the blessings and miracles that God has done in their lives, that Jesus in the flesh has done in their lives. How many times have we been in storms and situations and we automatically focus on the resources, we focus on the storms, we forget about the resource that has been there with us the whole time? Have faith. Know that Jesus is there with you in the storm. Know that Jesus is there sitting on the grass with you when you see problems of many coming your way and you think, how are we supposed to do this? And the funny thing is that there's 12 baskets left over. It could be that those were 12 baskets for each disciple as a reminder of how ye of little faith. Why did you doubt me? Jesus did so many miracles. So many. And yet the disciples would still look at him and say, how are we going to do this? You're right, we on our own cannot do this. We have to go to the source. Stop focusing on the resources in your life and put your focus on the main source of your life. And the cool thing is, when you put your faith into practice, when you put your eyes on the source, hopefully people will look at your life and they'll say the same thing that the people said in John 6 of this is the prophet that came. Not you are the prophet, but they'll see that Jesus is living in you. And they see that when your eyes are on him, that we can do many things through Christ. And they'll look at you and say, wow, I see Christ living through this person, and I want what that person has. When you put your faith into practice, people will see that faith being poured out. And people are attracted to different. They'll see that instead of worrying in a problem, that you're putting your faith not in the resources, but into the source of our life. And they're going to ask you, why are you acting this way? So many things are coming your way. You got so many problems. You can't handle these on your own. You say, I know. I have the right source. And do you have that source in your life? Are you constantly worrying about resources? Are you constantly worried about how to get out of a problem? Or so many things are coming your way. Are you constantly worried about that? Or are you going to start putting your focus on the source? And you'll see that when your heart is in the right place, you put your faith in the right place, that God is going to give you so many blessings that there's going to be overfilling amounts of blessings that are going to be around you. There's been so many times in my life where I look around and I say, Lord, how in the world did I get this? How did you do this? This was not my doing. How in the world did you bless me with so many things? How in the world did you do that? When you go to God with little, maybe it's 5 loaves and 2 fish, and you go to God with little, you're saying, God, do what you can with this. Do what you can with me, Lord. Do what you can. See the results when you go to him with little, but you have faith because you're focused on the source. See what comes out of it, and you're going to be amazed at the baskets that you have left over. That's my challenge to you, is to stop focusing on resources, but focus on the source. Put your faith in him and see what God can do by using you, by working through you, and see what others see when you put your faith into practice. Do not be afraid of the storm, but know that you got Jesus walking on water right there with you. And know that he's right there sitting on the grass right next to you. Know that he's there with you. I hope you all are doing great. I can't wait to see you again next week. Take care and God bless.